We have a special guest here with us this morning. He's not a special guest to our church, but a special guest to interview for, and it's going to be a double whammy. Pastor Jonathan and myself going to double whammy Darren Glickert. So would you welcome Darren to the platform this morning? Darren, that's the most rousing cheer we've ever had for a guest.
I feel it.
Honestly.
And on Father's Day too, and looking out there.
I know.
Yeah, pretty impressive.
So here's what we're going to. Well, first of all, I wanted to mention to you that Darren is going to begin leading a team called a welcome team. So the people who welcome you when you walk in the door, the people who usher you when you need a place to sit, Darren is going to spearhead that team. We're going to do some recruiting, some training, and some otherwise build up that team. So if you can smile and if you can stand at a doorway and wear a name tag, you qualify for this team. Which is almost everybody. It's almost everybody. And then we have another team that is beginning called the safety team. That'll be led by Tim Kelly. This team will be safety and security. And Tim is going to build a network of people who are kind of prone or have some instincts regarding keeping us safe and secure. So see Tim if you have any interest in that team. And if you are interested in kind of plugging in to help us be a welcoming church formally and to join the team, there's a QR code in front of you. If you take get your camera out and you use that QR code, it'll lead you to a link that helps you indicate that you would like to sign up. You can click right on the Hi card and then just go down to the bottom and make a note that you're interested in that. There's also something else on that QR code that'll take you to a link to the bottom that says listen to our podcasts. And one of our podcasts that we have here among the church family is our Manhood podcast. Pastor Jonathan and I host a podcast on a regular basis. We release some content for you, and especially related to fathers, dads. And what we're aiming to do is to help bring some wisdom and encouragement to dads, dudes, and disciples. So we hope that that's a helpful resource. And one of the things that we get to do is kind of talk about topics that we're going to talk about here today with Darren. Darren's here for a reason. We wanted him to come share with you some things that have been happening in his life, starting with, it's all fatherhood stuff, but starting with this idea that, Darren, you had a highly engaged father, and also a highly engaged father loaded with wisdom and encouragement, and recently have dealt with life without your father, having lost your dad recently. And we would love for you to share with our church family what kind of wisdom and encouragement that your dad passed on to you that still kind of is alive and helping you.
I appreciate that. What a perfect day to remember. Yesterday, I had a chance with my sister go to the graveside and did some cleaning, planted some plants, put some rocks there, and it's kind of the first step of really honoring him because my dad was really particular about things looking right and cleaning up things right. So it's kind of a first start of kind of really honoring him. But when you asked me to speak about my father and some of the experiences and the wisdom and how he's encouraged me, I said, hey, where am I going to start? I mean, I was really blessed to be the son of Clayton Glickert. Many people in this room probably remember my dad in the ways that he did things. But so I don't take this and replace the sermon today. I try to take a little bit of notes. I wanted to highlight some things because there's some things in particular that I loved how he lived life. I loved how he loved people, and I loved how he made people feel special. But he had a way of reading the Bible and making it come alive and drive the way that he even lived, and I saw it firsthand. So I wanted to highlight something. I tried to remember kind of how he would say this, but he had a unique way to explain John 3:16. Does everybody in this room know John 3:16?
No.
Nobody does. Well, we're going to go through it right now in Clay Glickert form. This is something I learned from my dad. He goes like this: "For God so loved the world means that you are lovable and therefore can give love to others. That he gave his one and only Son means that you are valuable. God opened the vaults of heaven for you, and that means you can value others. That whosoever believes means that you are forgivable and you are also able to forgive others, and should not perish but have everlasting life means that you are changeable and can believe that others can change too. As my dad would say, amazing. So he had a unique way of taking the Bible and making it come alive, make it be practical. I saw that every day. His kindness, the way he loved people. There wasn't a little kid or an adult or a teenager in between that didn't feel like when they were with my dad, felt special. So those are kind of things I say, you know something? If I have someone who's a role model who I wanted to emulate my life after, my dad was a perfect example of it. I saw how he loved and served people. Even the way that his servant leadership, he believed that the best leaders are the ones that serve, the ones that be willing to do the little things even when people aren't looking. I remember one time I led a youth event, and I put in hours. I wanted to go over the top. And that's another thing that my dad always told me, prepare. Get ready for an awesome night, right? Do a lot of things and be prepared for an awesome evening. So I'm doing all this stuff, and 3 kids showed up. And I was like...
2 of them are yours.
2 of them are mine, yeah. And one is, I think, my nephew or something. I was like, oh, man, I put hours. I mean, this room was decked out, lights everywhere. Hey, this was fun. And I said, Dad, man, I'm discouraged. I'm like, Dad, what's the deal? Because he's been in ministry forever. And he said, Darren, he's like, you know something? You're honoring Jesus. When you're doing all this stuff, you're serving Jesus. You're not doing it for other people. You're not doing it for the number. You're not doing it for the head count. But you're doing it to love Jesus. And I'm like, thanks, Dad. Another lesson learned. So, I mean, he passed away in July of 22. I miss him. I definitely do. But I get a chance. I mean, these past 6 months, man, if I had Clay Glicker right now with me, it'd been an awesome time. But he was awesome. And a word I want to make sure to really that I was encouraged by in his wisdom is intentionality. I think that's a word that's huge. Being intentional about how you live, how you serve, the way that you do your work, the way that even if you're going to host people at your home. I know it's been a big thing for my Kristen and I to, when we have people over, that it's not just, hey, we're just having some food, but there's a lot of thought into it. There's whether there's the games that we're going to play or the conversation that we have, but the intentionality. Because you know what intentionality brings? People who are part of that, they say, you know something, I'm important. And people are most important thing that we have. So those are things that I've learned and have always been encouraged from my dad to be part of. So,
well said.
Love that. Darren, you obviously were super fortunate to have a father who loved you enough to be willing to teach you.
Yeah.
Right? And I know Dan, same experience, certainly my experience as well. So fortunate to have the dads that we did. One of the things that I love about our Heavenly Father is that oftentimes when He teaches us things, He does that in a specific way. And many times it's by taking us by the hand and walking us through difficult stuff, right? Walking us right down into the valley. He doesn't leave us there alone, but He's walking us through it. Why? Because He wants to teach us something, right? Oftentimes it's something about Himself. And you guys have been in that, and you're in that. And I love your vulnerability today and your willingness to be up here and share a little bit of what you guys are going through. But not only that, but what is your Heavenly Father teaching you as He's walking you guys through this valley that you've been in the past couple of years?
I appreciate you asking that. When you're going through tough times, I think it's a huge mistake for us to want to play fast forward and just blow through it. Because so much of you learn about who God is, who you are, and the people in your life, what they mean to you, and the importance of every moment. Many people in this room know, but obviously my wife's health journey, she diagnosed with breast cancer, and the journey that she's on to get healthy and strong, it's huge. It's huge. The first weeks that she was supposed to get chemo, I got word I need to be seen by people in our company. Say, hey, Darren, you no longer can be with the company. I lost my job. The same week, my wife's going to the chemo. I'm like, oh, that's great timing. But interesting timing in the sense that I got all the time in the world for my wife. I got all the time in the world. And to be with her every step of the way, knowing that, and just like that's how God was through this whole time. I had one thing after another. It seemed like I hit a flying goose. Who hits goose? I mean, who does that? Like I hit a goose. My basement flooded. I had a couple deers, ticks on me. I'm like, what in the world's going on? It's just one thing after the other. I was like, this is just miserable. I'm like, God, I felt like Job a bit, say, all right, God, what? You must have some great plans for me because I'm getting hit left and right. But then this is a verse my wife put on our fridge, and I thought it hit home. I'm going to read it to you here. It's 2 Corinthians 4:16 through 18. It says, therefore we do not lose heart. Though outwardly we are wasting away, yet inwardly we are being renewed day by day. For our light and momentary troubles are achieving for us an eternal glory that far outweighs them all. So we fix our eyes not what is seen, but what is unseen, since what is seen is temporary, but what is unseen is eternal. And I've learned to trust God with money, resources, our health, or everything. I mean, even this time of when my wife's battling for her own health, I'm battling for my health. Thanks to this guy right here, Pastor Dan, has been really leaning into me. He's mentoring me and really loving me like a older brother or father figure. In that sense, brother. Okay, all right. We're talking about Father's Day. I have to incorporate everything in the Father's Day, don't I? But coming alongside and fighting for my own health. I mean, and the investment that he's had in working on my own health and getting fit and stronger that way. But knowing that all these fighting for health or each day is so important to do the right thing. I also remember that the steps of the righteous are ordained by the Lord. That he's got me. That, I'm wondering, man, the past, so many things have happened in the past. And the future is just so unknown, but the present is what we have, and he has me today to trust him, to know that he is good. There's been songs that we've been really has hit home to us, but the realization that God is good, and that he's faithful, and to know that that's all we have. I mean, it's all we have. I also know how good and gracious God is and how loving he is. You know how I know God is so loving? Because I look around this room, and God's love is poured out through you guys to our family. I mean, the meals, I don't even know how I'm losing any weight right now, because the meals that we receive, the gift cards, even the generosity with financially giving, in these times, you have no idea how meaningful and how encouraging it is that your guys love your support. The messages that we receive about being prayed for, the cards, I mean, we're getting the most interesting spots from neighbors to coworkers to people we just know on Facebook, it seems like. Just the most encouraging stuff. So we've seen God at work in his people, and it's real, man. It's, when you love God and then you allow it to change your heart and then allow it to love others, man, it makes such a huge difference. So that's something I really want to highlight. And then finally, he taught me to not lean on my own understanding, but in all my ways, acknowledge him, and he will make my path straight.
It's so obvious that God's at work, and he's doing something in your life, and he's shaping you. He's molding you, right? And talk a little bit about how that shaping, that process is changing the way that you you father, you parent, right? What have you noticed about that?
Well, my kids are now used to me crying all the time. I mean, going through this and trying to be supportive of Mom, my kids, amazing. I'm just so impressed with them. I'm so glad over the years of investing in them. I think the tears are tears of appreciation, tears of thankfulness. And I think from a chance as a father, who I like to consider myself a tough guy. It doesn't look like I'm a tough guy, but I like to think I'm a tough guy. If anybody messes with my kids, watch out for the orange, you know? It's kind of one of those deals. And but having my kids going through this and realize that how we handle these tough times, our kids are watching, and they're looking, and they're seeing how you respond. So it's one of those things that I know Mom and I are kind of like, that's even weird saying that, Kristen and I, are, we know that this is for a reason. And then part of it I like to think is that it's part of deepening even my kids' faith. So as a father, when I'm learning as a father, I want to just highlight a couple things here. I'm learning to love freely because I've seen that from people, loving us freely. Whenever possible, make someone else's day because you don't know what kind of day they're having. I know what kind of days I've had of late. I want to give my wife and kids my best and not scraps. I want to serve with a joyful heart. I want to make them egg sandwiches at weird hours or whatever kind of weird stuff they want. I want to learn to ask a lot of questions and just listen. Right, Brent? I need to just listen more, right? The love and care for their mom is the best gift I can give them because they'll feel safe and secure in their home. I'm learning how to be a worshiper of Jesus. And when you sing songs that glorify God, it's okay to let your kids hear your bad voice. And then and finally, allow the Holy Spirit to move you to tears as you surrender your life to His will. Your kids will see your authentic faith. Let me say that again without cracking up. Your kids will see your authentic faith. We can't just go to church. We can't just pass off that responsibility to someone else. I mean, we got great kids workers back here, great youth workers and all that, but they're just here to support us. So authentic faith, if we can pass that on to our kids, boy, that's the win through all this.
Yeah, this is a little bit off script, but I just want to add that you're crushing it, man.
Sorry, guys. Man, I can't tell us what lights are on, but
you really are. When I look at the way that you husband Kristen and the way that you parent your kids, it's a massive inspiration. It really is, and we love you, man. We're with you guys, and you're one of those dads that we can aspire to and look up to and model our lives after. So, dude, you're killing it.
Oh, I appreciate you saying that, but I just, thanks, man. And again, thank you guys. Yeah, punch me. Come on, Slim, come on. This guy's huge. I'm not messing with John. Are you kidding me? But you guys, seriously, this is an opportunity. I mean, my wife does not want the spotlight on her, and she thinks I love the spotlight, which maybe is kind of fun, but not really when you're crying all over yourself. But no, but seriously, this is an awesome time. I want to thank you guys. I didn't know if I'd ever have a chance to thank you guys. I mean, really, the support has just been off the charts, so I really appreciate it. So thank you guys.
We're getting a zoom in of your sock. Do you want to explain that at all, or?
Zoom in on the sock. It says I'm a cool dad. And this is my Father's Day socks. I got this, and this is when I had a little bit less gray hair. But it's my Father's Day socks. So
you bought them for
thank
yourself?
You. What?
You bought them for yourself?
Totally. That's how I Dude, you got to represent. Who else has Father's Day gear on? Anybody got Father's Day tie? No, people don't wear ties anymore. Any other Father's Day goofy shirts or socks or mugs or anything you got here today? Nothing? I'm the only cornball father here, I guess.
We've got a manhood podcast. I mentioned it. And our idea with a manhood podcast is to bring content like this, conversations about being a dad, being a disciple, and being a man. And we're inspired really to just offer wisdom and some encouragement, as I mentioned, to disciples, dudes and dads. And we're inspired by Paul writing to Titus, and he says, in the same way, encourage the young men to live wisely. So JV and I are adding our voice that is hopefully trusted and familiar to help encourage and bring wisdom to men. And if you are listening to the podcast, you are going to hear some things. One of the things you'll hear is this. Research has just been released recently after about a 20-year study on what makes families thrive, what separates thriving families from families that survive. And they discovered it's only one thing. There's a golden thread between thriving families and surviving families. And it's this. It is every thriving family had a warm-hearted, emotionally engaged father. And other families could thrive, but the ones that did had that same trait. And that's the kind of things that you'll hear us talk about in our podcast, along with some of the New Testament traits of biblical manhood. JV.
Yeah, and one of the things you probably won't hear is a couple of dads who have done it perfectly. You know, and that's one of the things that can be intimidating about listening to something like that is like, oh, am I going to hear about all the ways that I've done it wrong? I mean, the reality is Dan and I are in process, and we have not done it perfectly. We've not arrived. Oftentimes, in our research for the podcast, we'll come across material and some truths that we're like, no way. How did I not know that? You know, how did I not see that? That'd have been so helpful 10 years ago, 15 years ago, you know? And what we're learning is that you can't do this well. You can't do parenting. You can't do manhood well alone. You can't do it in isolation. I need Dan. I need Darren, you know? I need guys like that, not only to bounce ideas off of, but to just watch them, right? Watch the way that they operate and the way that they parent, the way that they love their wives. We so need that, especially since we're in a bit of a unique time in terms of raising kids, I think, right? And I know every generation probably says, oh, it's totally different than it was before. Things are different. And truly, we're the first generation, and again, we had amazing examples, right? You had an amazing example, you did, I did, but still there's so much to learn. We're raising kids right now who are digital natives. No generation has ever done that, right? We've basically taken all the world's information and we've put it in their pocket, and we've said, okay, like, sink or swim, good luck with that, you know? And I often wonder how history is going to look back on that and like, what, you did what with your kids? You did, you know, so there's just so much. There's so much that's being thrown at them, whether that's at school or wherever. We need help. We need help parenting. We need help being men who follow after God. And hopefully the podcast just helps facilitate that a little bit. And again, don't be intimidated by what you might hear, because it's often like, hey, we're right there. We're right with you. So
It's good. So you can find that podcast by scanning that QR code, as I said. Scroll down where it says listen to our podcast, and it's there. Would you give Darren, thank him for sharing with us? Appreciate it.